Top 10 best moments in World of Warcraft's history. Number 10. Bosses annihilating capital cities. Is there anything more memorable than seeing a huge demon lord stomping into what should be a sanctuary, a place you call home? Over the years, many tough bosses have been kited into various cities of Azeroth to unleash death and destruction. Many Alliance heroes have sought vengeance on the Orc capital of Orgrimmar, including Lady Jaina Proudmoore and Shandris Feathermoon. Doomlord Kazak is the one we remember the most though. He has single-handedly conquered Stormwind City and razed Ironforge. Due to his abilities, he was incredibly difficult to defeat. Him killing a player meant he healed, and then killed many more. He often had to be manually despawned by Game Masters so that order was resumed. We miss those random attacks. These days Blizzard is pretty quick to fix these issues, or ensure that they're not possible in the first place. But we live in hope that one day they'll forget to reset a tough mob. Number 9. Baron's Chat. Baron's Chat, how we don't miss you very much. The Baron's Chat was one of the first zones encountered by Troll, Orc and Tauren players, starting the game with an equally long grind ahead of it spanning almost 10 levels. What did players do to take their mind off collecting boar tusks? Take it to the general chat. Conversation ranged from Chuck Norris to Metallica and the ever popular Where is Mancrick's wife? And while not the most enthralling discussions, especially after the 15th time, it provided a welcome distraction to questing. Number 8. City Raids. City raids are huge and some of the most fun experiences we've had in World of Warcraft. Attacking an opposing city's faction leader found deep within enemy territory is not a task that can be easily accomplished. Not only are the cities difficult to penetrate due to the presence of guards and players alike, the leaders are formidable NPCs that can quickly annihilate unprepared raid groups. Though these are less frequent today, it always gets the adrenaline pumping to hear the cries of a city under siege while players quickly leap to defense of their beloved leaders, unless that leader was Garrosh Hellscream. Number 7. Corrupted Blood. Back in September 2005, patch 1.7 came with Zul'Gurub, a new 20-player raid instance. Final boss Hakar the Soulflayer would place a debuff on characters that would quickly deal damage and then spread to others in close proximity. Through a glitch, this ability could exit the raid instance where chaos ensued. Player pets carrying the disease would be summoned in capital cities, namely Ironforge and Orgrimmar, due to their high populations, and quickly spread, annihilating low-level characters. Important NPCs like auctioneers, flight masters and guards contracted the disease. Though they could not be killed by it, it ensured a highly contagious outbreak. This was eventually fixed. Some praise the occurrence while others rage at the level of disruption caused. I personally thought it was an interesting shake-up. Number 6. You are not prepared. The Burning Crusade was wonderful for memorable boss quotes, with Magister's Terrace providing the stuff memes are made of. Before then came Illidan, the final boss encounter for the Black Temple raid. A fan favourite, the Black Temple is hailed as one of the raids to define World of Warcraft. Originally, an attunement quest was needed to enter the zone by killing bosses in the Battle for Mount Hyjal, Tempest Keep the Eye, and Serpentshire Cavern raids. If you were fortunate enough to reach the end of the Black Temple and fight Illidan, an extremely difficult encounter involving 5 different stages, you were rewarded with the beloved items such as the Twin Blades of Azeroth and the Bulwark of Azeroth. Number 5. Wrath of the Lich King Cinematic. The Wrath of the Lich King expansion had everyone hyped. It was a point at which Warcraft subscriptions reached their peak and a time where players look back fondly upon, due to several of the expansion's features. Be that the World PvP zone, Wintergrass, the addition of siege vehicles, or encountering lore favourite Arthas in his Lich King guise. The cinematic gave players a first look at what the expansion is and what it's about. Number 4. A Zombie Outbreak. For the Wrath of the Lich King's pre-expansion event, Blizzard shook up the game in a way that changed the expectations for future events forever. A zombie plague descended upon Azeroth. Originating as creepy-looking crates which contained cockroaches that infected those who killed them, the disease was quickly spread as the event gained momentum. Players grew more resistant to the cure. The time taken to transform into a zombie eventually reached just 1 minute. Both players and NPCs were equally helpless to the viral outbreak, and several capital cities completely shut down as flight masters, bankers, and even some faction leaders transformed into flesh-eating, plague-bearing carriers. The event lasted for a week and is considered by many the most dynamic event that's ever happened in World of Warcraft. It also proved the most controversial. For every player that enjoyed the event, there were 5 that voiced their annoyance that their sales of boar meat were disrupted. Subsequent events have been on the safer side, with a smaller scale elemental invasion for Cataclysm, a scenario detailing Theramor's fall for Mr. Pandaria, and a quest chain detailing the Iron Horde storming through the Dark Portal for Warlords of Draenor. Number 3. The Battle of Tara Mill vs South Shore. Before the introduction of arenas and battlegrounds, there was the Battle of Tara Mill vs South Shore, a vicious battle between the Horde and Alliance for all players of all levels, that which was by definition all-out carnage. The battles grew so intense that many servers failed to handle the load, creating awful lag for players in the vicinity if the servers didn't crash entirely. The introduction of the battlegrounds Artelic Valley and Warsong Gulch meant the end of the all-out war, but players fondly look back at the first major world PvP event that World of Warcraft had seen. An instanced limited edition battleground based on Toromil vs South Shore was available for the game's 10th anniversary using assets from the pre-Cataclysm zone. World of Warcraft's first deathmatch style map was initially planned to be as a 100 vs 100 battle. Number 2. Old Alterac Valley. Alterac Valley was one of World of Warcraft's oldest and biggest battlegrounds and also one of the most controversial. Requiring a group of 40 players on each side, the Horde Alliance must battle out for territorial dominance by slaying the enemy general. The Warzone's history is a long and bloody one, but players could once summon elemental overlords to raise the enemy base, aerial assaults, cavalry charges, and ground troops. Though these are technically still possible, the battleground has since been streamlined and rarely provides the same experience it once did. Games that once lasted for days now only last for an average of 13 minutes, and years of pleas to return Alterac Valley to the epic experience it once was have remained unheard. Blizzard has previously described the battleground as super ambitious, probably over ambitious, for when it was released, and probably the single most complicated design in WoW in terms of how it was built. Warlords of Draenor attempted to recapture the feel of the old Alterac Valley with the new persistent PvP zone Ashran. We still hope Alterac Valley is looked at again one day soon. Number 1. Onyxia and Ragnaros. Number 1 is a joint spot for the two original raid bosses in World of Warcraft, Onyxia, an internet dragon, and the Lord of Fire, Ragnaros. Onyxia became a favourite with players after an enjoyable quest chain which saw her deceitful nature exposed. She previously held a position as one of Stormwind City's highest officials and used this position to her advantage. Once players had unmasked her, they chased her down into her lair, ultimately slaying her and removing her head to be hung on Stormwind's gates. This wasn't the last players saw of Onyxia, however. She made a return in Cataclysm where she was resurrected and used in another raid encounter. She was also part of World of Warcraft's 5th anniversary celebrations, with her fight being updated with relevant level gear and a dragon mount. Any player that logged in also received a baby Onyxia pet. Meanwhile, found in the depths of a level 60 raid, Molten Core came Ragnaros, an epic encounter that was exciting until the very last breath and was extremely difficult on its day. Back then, raids required 40 people to complete, so the logistics involved were as difficult as many encounters. Ragnaros was so popular that he too made a return later in the game's lifespan. This time being summoned in the wake of Deathwing's destruction in Cataclysm, with him being the final boss once more in Firelands. The difference this time, he had legs and will chase you down. He also had a miniature version of himself available for purchase as a pet, and was part of the game's 10th anniversary celebrations as he returned again in an upscaled version of Molten Core. Thanks for watching my video on the top 10 best moments in World of Warcraft's history. Like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if you want to see more from me in the future. And until next time guys, bye!